We're currently on the poop deck of the Titanic, and it's a section that's been made that can actually lift to 90 degrees. And so what we've got, 150 extras and 80 to 90 stunt people that we're just rehearsing on this section, just so we can get it to look very realistic. The idea is to create the illusion of danger, but having it safe.
There was a lot of safety parameters that went into it. They all had to be cabled, obviously. I had to make sure that everyone was wearing protective pads.
The worst thing that can happen here is that people are going to land on top of each other, so we've all got to be prepared and know exactly where everyone's intending to go before we start.
We put human-shaped dummies that were completely foam around certain objects that couldn't be made of rubber. Some of the stunt performers would carry these dummies down with them. We made a lot of things in the end out of rubber, or coated things in rubber or foam, so that people could actually hit things and bounce off. We did most of the tumbling down the deck at 25 degrees. That's where the stunt performers could still control to a degree where they went, and they wouldn't get really hard impact. Very early on in the prep of Titanic, I got together with Rob Legato, the visual effects supervisor, and we were going through sequences where it was impossible for stunt performers to actually do these things without seriously getting hurt.
When it was pitched up in the air like it was there, it's 300 feet in the air. A stuntman can't fall that far into water and not break his leg, and that became part of our mission, is to do these digital stunts, which are now very common, but back then were not very common.
We did lots of tests with Rob, like we had people fall off 40-foot or 60-foot rostrums into airbags.
We shot with two cameras and basically did our version of motion capture, which we called it roto capture.
He would then test it to see if he could use it for some digital stunt people falling down the set. At the end of shooting, we put on these black sort of like skin-tight suits with all these balls, and we did things like fall off 20-foot sections, hit rubber, mats, bounce, twist, somersault, and we were those CG guys, so to speak. But when we were doing the falls on the poop deck, which we only had 100-foot sections, some of those shots you're seeing a 200-foot section.
At some point, the connection with the rest of the ship, we would have to do sort of a digital set extension and a digital stunt extension for that.
So the falls would all start for real, and then CG guy would take over, because we would actually come to the end of our fall or the end of our cable. I think the combination of the two worked out extremely well. For the one sequence where the poop section went up to 90 degrees, we tried to do as much with the actors as humanly possible, and, again, safety allowing. But I've got to say, both Kate and Leo were excellent. They weren't scared of heights. We had them 80 feet in the air, and they were cabled, obviously, but, it's a long way down.
What's happening, Jack?
I don't know.
For the stunts, we had small platforms that would bolt into the floor. We used machines called fan descenders, which are a big cylindrical drum shaped like a cone, so that when people dropped, they would start fast and then they would decelerate so they could actually land on their feet on the ground. But we had 10 descenders working, so we could drop people the whole 100 feet, and on the way they would hit someone else, who would then fall, hit someone else, and they would fall onto the platforms, whereas our key people on the decelerators would fall the whole 100 feet to the ground below.
We designed some really challenging and memorable shots to sell the height of the ocean liner standing on its end, its stern hundreds of feet in the air. Everybody on the show called this signature tilting shot the toilet paper shot. Why? Because we used a roll of toilet paper on the set to give the cameraman a reference of where a falling digital stuntman would be added later. We then turned the footage over to Digital Domain to track and add the rest of the elements to the shot.
I'm Judith Crowe, and I'm one of the supervisors on Titanic, and this shot here you're seeing the result of a three-dimensional track of the plate, so that we can work out the camera move and pass that to other animators to put in stars and ocean and a set extension to extend the ship further into the image. And there's actually a toilet roll dropping through shot which will be replaced by a CG falling body, and a very dramatic shot tilting all the way down from the tip of the stern of the ship all the way down to the ocean.
The final moments of the sinking were achieved through a combination of both old-school visual effects methods and new digital techniques that were groundbreaking at the time. We built a quarter-scale miniature of the stern and poop deck, then shot it with a high-speed camera as it was lowered into a tank. This gave us our main background with the necessary water interaction. We then added digital extras reacting to the rising ocean with mats for when they would disappear beneath the churning water. We also added digital mist elements to blend the digital extras into the miniature shot. Finally, we shot a green screen element of our actors on a full-scale section of the railing and composited it all together and even added a digital camera shake.